good.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Alice and Ann.
Alice and Ann, Ann and Alice.
In the tavern.
In the tavern.
In our costumes.
Mm-hmm. We're the tavern maids.
We are. So we're going to talk about taverns. Kind of a little bit of background, how they came to be, what you would find in a tavern, what they were used for, and then pretty much anything else that comes to our mind.
Okay.
As we're talking.
Let's do it.
All right. So, there's a ton of research on taverns, so I really had to streamline my information. So I know Anne, because this is her tavern, has a lot more information. But I was like, okay, this can't be like a credit course. We have to just do a quiz
at the end.
Yeah,
if you don't pass,
right,
you don't get to whatever.
Exactly. So here we go. I'm going to read a little bit. The American taverns were first known as ordinaries. That's what they called them, ordinaries. And I told you before, when I went to Hingham and we toured a couple of historical homes, one of them was the Old Ordinary. So that must have been used as a tavern at one time. They started when the people started coming to America. That's when the idea of a tavern and a central meeting place for people to meet kind of came into being. A tavern could be a freestanding building with like a sort of a second floor lofty area for people to sleep, or a lot of times they were added onto an existing structure like a home. I think they had to have a license to run a tavern because, of course, it was selling liquor and food and all that sort of stuff. But it could be a one-room tavern that would have your tap room, your fireplace, your tables, your chairs. But the ones that were a little bit, the better ones would have an additional room, which would be a parlor or a meeting room. So the women who weren't really allowed in the tavern part could go in the parlor and do what women did. Spin or sewing, that sort of
gossiping.
thing. Right. Maybe they did, a general sewing, not a sewing bee, but, they got together. And then the meeting room would be set, obviously, for meetings. But the main part of the tavern would have your tables, your chairs, your fireplace, your tap room, your mugs, to your
caged bar.
Your cage bar.
Yes.
Yes. And so we're going to talk about some of the things that were in the tavern. Then we'll arrange the tables after we do a little introduction.
Okay.
So let me see if there's anything else. I'm sure there's lots of things that I did not mention. Oh, one of the things is women weren't allowed in the taverns, but a lot of women actually did own them or run them. And a lot of times they would let women who were widows run them because it was a way for them to earn some income and then come off the social welfare rolls. But they weren't actually allowed in the taverns themselves. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. Let's see. I don't know if I've covered everything. I think I've actually... do you have anything that you'd like to say about taverns? Or will we just, as we go, we'll kind of talk about it?
Well, I think I want to talk about pineapples, because pineapples were a symbol of the tavern and hospitality, and we see that all the time in colonial. And it still is
today.
It still is today.
When you see that pineapple, that's what you think of. Yeah.
Right. And you would also see pineapple on the bed rails in the taverns because of, this is a tavern bed.
Yeah.
So the way that started was the sea captains were out exploring the world, and they would go to exotic countries, and there were pineapples growing. And they would take that exotic fruit back to their land, and they would take their spear, and they would jab the spear through a pineapple when they got home on their fence, and it let everybody know that they could come, eat exotic food, and hear exotic stories. And so now the pineapple has stayed all these years.
And even you'll see, like you said, bedposts have the pineapple design.
Yes.
It's incorporated into all kinds of things.
It is.
You know, design and wallpaper and stenciling,
Yes.
all of that.
Yep.
Speaking of sort of signage, a lot of them had a sign, and it was called an ale post, and they would put it outside the tavern, and when you saw that, it was advertising that there was food and drink and a place for refuge, that
Right.
type of thing. And Ann and I were just talking earlier that tavern signs are very, very collectible, and you have some like reproduction type
Yeah,
on your
Right,
website,
right.
and they're very, very collectible
Yeah.
because again they got even well, it was a sort of folk art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then now they've become, it's folk art. Now they're so valuable now,
Yeah.
the prices of them.
Yeah.
But, so we wanted to talk about the kinds of things you might see in a tavern. So obviously you'd have your fireplace. You would have your tables, your chairs, and
Benches.
then benches, and that would be in the main room. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the meeting room probably had a long table with chairs, and the parlor probably had more comfy type chairs. Mm-hmm. So we are actually going to talk about some of the things. I'm going to show you up close and personal some of the things that would have been in the tavern, and then we will set up the tables.
Right.
And then we will tell you how we came up with this configuration of the tables.
So let's also talk about, because there are a lot of people that would love to have a tavern in their house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm super lucky. I have a tavern in my
Yes.
house. And I gotta say, when I came through my house and I saw the tavern, I was like, I need this house now. So, you know, they had the cage bar.
The cage bar,
because
which is behind us.
Which is behind us. It's right now I have the tankards hanging on there, my pewter tankards. But that would come down when the bartenders were not there
they
to
had
protect.
to lock the liquor.
Yes, because
Yes.
else people would take it.
Yes.
So that was a very important part of the colonial tavern.
Yes.
And a lot of people make them now. Like
Yes,
they want a
they do.
tavern room, they
They
get an
do.
extra room, and they build a cage
Or
bar.
they also just make it part of an existing room already.
Right.
You know, just build it into the corner or whatever.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
a very common
Yes,
way
it is.
to start with your tavern look.
But it's so cool if you go to a real tavern and you actually see the tap bar,
Yes.
like in
Wayside
Wayside
Inn.
Inn.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just beautiful. Just beautiful.
Sorry, there probably were dogs in the tavern too. Hey, you.
I bet they were.
Yeah.
I bet they
Tammy,
were.
she has to go out again. Yeah, so the other thing. Hold on 1 minute. Bella, out. Excuse me.
Okay.
I'm just delaying lunch.
All right. So Ann's got to deal with the dogs. So let me see if there's anything else that I need to talk about. Nope. Ann's back.
I'm back. Okay, so you need the cage bar, and then of course you'd want a fireplace because the fireplace
Yes.
was how they heated,
Yep.
how they cooked. A lot of times there'd be a cooking fireplace in another room where they
Yeah.
actually do
Yeah.
the cooking, but you might have the hot ale there or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
But you definitely needed the heat.
You had to have a fireplace.
Right.
Definitely.
Right, and there were the lanterns.
Yes.
Because you
needed
light.
light.
You needed light.
You needed light.
From what I read, I have curtains in my tavern, but they didn't normally have curtains in the
Right.
tavern. That was
Right.
something they didn't do. I also have an upholstered chair in the tavern.
Yeah, right.
They wouldn't have done that because that would have been a very expensive item.
Yes, it would have.
Cloth was expensive. To get
Right.
it, at that point, it would have to come from England.
So we're just talking wooden tables,
Right.
wooden chairs,
Right.
wooden benches.
Yes.
And this is like 1700s.
Yes.
That was it.
Right. Sparse.
Yes, very, very
Yeah.
sparse. So when we were trying to even make this tavern more primitive, we took decorative type things that
Yeah.
you would have on your fireplace. We took them down and we didn't put very much because what would have been there would have been necessary.
Right.
It wouldn't have been like my fireplace at home. I have all this stuff, and it's very pretty, but
Right.
not practical at all, probably,
Right.
because we romanticize it.
Yeah.
And so we also took down, Anne had a couple of like electric lights, and those are hidden somewhere. We don't know if you'll see them. Hopefully you don't. And then we got lanterns. There's a lot of hooks around, and we hung lanterns because they would have needed the light.
Right.
And we're thinking that they probably would have had lanterns in the middle of the tables or hanging on hooks, more so than candlesticks, because I think that those could tip over.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they probably had candlelight, candlesticks, lanterns.
Yeah.
And again, the lanterns you could carry and put on hooks. So
Right.
we tried to do that here. So Anne has started decorating, and she has her trees and greens. And I really think that they would have done that because it was simple decorating, easy to get to. The smell of the greens would have been, I think they would have done something festival around Christmas time. So I think the greens are totally appropriate. Also, dried fruit, like you'll notice as we go around. I mean, Anne has some greens and some fruit. Those things I think would have been festive to them. And again, fruit was probably hard to get, so it would have been a very festive, kind of a valuable thing.
Right.
So I think that even though Anne lives in modern times, when you walk in, you really get the feel of it. And earlier, when the fire had a lot of smoke, I really felt like we were. But now it's died down a little bit.
Yeah.
And it had the screen up in front of it, which she took away. To make it look more authentic. So I think we tried to make it really more primitive. Ian had one of her Santas up. She took that down because that's probably not something that they would have had.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
This would have really been what it looked like.
Yeah.
And Ian hopefully will show you the fireplace and all the different tools that would have been around there as we kind of go around. So I brought a bunch of stuff from my house. I went around my house today and brought a big bin of things that they would have had in the tavern. So I thought we'll give a little information about them.
Okay.
And then we will have to move the camera and show, set up the tables. But I will tell you, when we decided where the tables were going, we sort of imagined that this room might have been the parlor,
Yes.
and that you would have had a path through the tavern to this room over here, which we're going to call the meeting room,
Right.
because it has a fireplace in it and a long table and a lot of chairs. So that was our thinking of this, and that's exactly, I think how it would have been.
Yeah, I think so.
And obviously
Yeah.
they're movable. This table here, I'm just going to talk about it, but we'll tell you later. We put a bench, and then you could use the wainscoting to lean up against, and then another bench in front of it with some soft pillows. We put another one by a window, again for light.
Right.
Pushed up against the wall, but able to pull it out, because these tables aren't huge tables.
No.
Pull it out if you needed another chair. And then another one, again, against the wall with two chairs. Again, another chair could go. They also could be pulled out to accommodate more people. But I think it would be pushed back
I think so.
out of the way.
Yeah.
In order to, allow more room, and then pulled out for when it was
Right.
filled up.
Right.
So that was our kind of thinking behind the whole tavern design.
Right.
So Ian calls me and she goes, we should design the tavern. Let's rearrange the tavern. And sure, it's what we do. We love to decorate.
It's what we do. Well,
So-
you know how you set up, in a way a drawing room is a lot of tavern,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
And you're always setting it up and playing with it.
Yes.
Like people are over and they're
Like
eating and they're
people
doing
live-
things.
exactly.
And I do that too. I come in here and I'm like, okay, let's pretend tonight there are 3 guests and they're eating this and they're having some soup and oh, here's some old bread. I mean, I do the same thing.
We do the same.
It's dollhouse.
I know, and you know what? I love my dollhouse.
I know.
I love my dollhouse so much that when I was like an adult in my late 30s, I bought a dollhouse just so I could decorate it because I don't know what my mother did with my other 50s one,
Yeah.
the tin one, you know the.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
those,
She sold
yeah.
all my good stuff, but
I had
anyway.
a Barbie dollhouse.
You had a-
yeah.
well, I
it
did-
was a mod house. Yeah.
Oh, but I did too. I had the cardboard one that opened up.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
the very
one
first
I had.
one.
Oh, I
But
probably.
my mother, I don't know what she did with
Oh.
it. She gave it to somebody.
Oh.
And we never had. It was gone. But anyways,
We're
but
making up for lost time.
Yeah, but I actually now gave my dollhouse to my niece, who is of that age, and she said, "Auntie Alice, I think I'm gonna, decorate it, sort of like 50s." And I'm like, you know what? It's your dollhouse now. You go for it.
Well, and speaking of dollhouses, if any of you have not seen the dollhouse video that I did last year with this woman who's built her
Yes.
whole basement into
Oh
a dollhouse,
my gosh!
it's amazing.
Just the scale. When I was collecting, just the scale
Yeah.
and the detail.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. No, it's amazing.
Yeah,
So,
that's a whole other video.
that's a whole. Yeah.
Another video.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you some things I grabbed from
Okay.
my house. So here I am
Yes,
this morning,
Let's do it.
going like a crazy person.
Mhm.
Going here. Let me just put these notes over here because I don't need them. Going around and grabbing everything. So I grabbed from the kitchen, went into the dining room, grabbed from there, went into the drawing room, grabbed from
All over
there.
the house.
Yeah, all over. Whatever I could find because again, they would have had pewter, they would have had wood plates, wood cups, and probably pewter as well. Now they didn't really mention redware, but I'm sure there was pieces of redware.
There had to be.
It had to have been because again, redware and treen were around the same time. But don't forget, redware could break easily and chip, where the wood wouldn't.
Right.
And then pewter was the next step up. So here, I'm going to just show you what I brought. So I'm going to try to describe it, and then we'll go around and read
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Show us.
All right, and then there'll be stories with everything. Stories. Okay. So I don't want to. Okay, I'll do these. So no, I don't want to do these yet. I gotta do the center of the table. I gotta be
right.
organized. All right. So I brought a huge pewter charger. So it was sort of communal eating in the day. So they would have had a charger or a low trencher in the middle where they would all grab the food from. Mm-hmm. So this is a beautiful pewter one. And I don't know, I would say it's probably 20? You think 20 inches? But anyways, the biggest
that's
ones
big.
were the chargers. But it's fabulous. It's got the rolled edge. I don't know if it has a mark. Oh, it does have a marking. I don't know if
These are not easy to find.
No, they're
No.
not easy to find. And when you do find them, they can be pricey. So if you get one that's, a couple of $100, go for it. But it's worn. It has a really nice look. So they would have put that, or they did have like trenchers. Now, this one is low. It's a very low trencher. And I'm thinking, because of the depth of this, something like this would have been in the middle. We don't know for sure. We know they had communal bowls in the middle. And I think they would have put, I don't know what they would have put in it. I mean, we don't know. It could have been, the meats in the juices and breads and vegetables.
Thrown it all in there.
They could have thrown it all in there. But again, it's very light and it's big enough for the center of a table. So this is what we're going to put on the center. Now, I love these. Where do you see these tree plates? So this is
They might not end up going home. Just saying.
I gotta make sure I get all my stuff.
You better count.
Oops, I forgot wonderful treen plate, one piece of wood. I think this was a better one. You see the design there?
It's beautiful.
Some of them don't, and it's obviously got a piece of, piece out of it and a crack, and that's okay. But they would have eaten from the treen or the pewter. So I have a couple more, and these are actually, it must be a different kind of wood, again, and they're very light. Would you say this is 12 inches?
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like on the back. And I bought these from a woman who was downsizing. And this is when I didn't, well, I kind of liked treen, but I didn't know if I loved it. And now I love it.
Well, because treen like this is the real primitive stuff.
It's really primitive.
I mean, really primitive.
It is. Yeah. But the thing is, so here's another one. And when I looked at this, you see I don't know if you can see the little tiny holes, but I think that's insect damage.
Probably.
Which, that would make sense.
Sure.
And this one actually has a design, however it was turned on the lathe. But yeah, so that's the real deal. But I just love them. And even if you have, like my house is, some parts are more primitive and some are not real formal, but they call it country formal or something, not like the high formal.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because they still would have used this.
Right.
Right. Obviously they would have gone to pewter, which was a step up.
I imagine at some point they didn't want to use that
They
anymore
didn't
because
want
they
to.
had the pewter, they had
That's
the redwood,
right.
they had
Yes.
stoneware, and then they had the nice china from England, right?
Exactly.
So this would be considered a poor man's plate.
Right. So they'd probably get rid of it.
Now
They'd
you
probably,
have to be rich to be able to buy that.
And you know what? If something better came available, just like we do,
Right, just like
we
we do.
would buy it.
Right.
But we're talking about a tavern, so
Right.
we're going with the
Going
tree.
with it, yeah.
Going with the tree. Okay, so I had some pewter. Oh,
Right here.
okay, so let's stick with plates, and we'll just do some pewter plates. These you can actually find, pretty readily. I would say that's probably 8 or 9 inch, maybe. Rolled edge. Probably has a mark, but again, pewter is, So, another one. This one actually does have some initials at the top, so maybe that was who it belonged to. Does it have a date? Oh, and this says 1751. So they probably marked their things in case they got stolen and they could find them again. And, just a couple of different sizes. This one actually does a lot of touch marks on the back. But again, pewter, there's so much information that you would have to know, so I can't really give you any information. The only thing is I think that the big charger is a Samuel Ellis, and he's a known pewterer.
Oh, wow.
And I bought that from one of my friends, and I think it is, I was trying to buy a Sam Ellis. I was trying to get one that had a mark on it.
Oh, okay.
The other thing, we were talking about soups, and so I'm guessing that they would have used the little porringers. Mm-hmm. So porringers, it had to be like a porridgey type of stew kind of thing. So I'm guessing, and these are easy to find, but you can, now this one actually is marked on the back, it says FH. You can get newer looking ones. These happen to be old, because that's what I do old. Here's another one. So I love this for the heart.
Oh, isn't that cute?
But look at the other handle. It's almost like it got hot and it
Yeah.
melted the heart
Looks
design.
like it. Looks like it. Interesting.
Or somebody got too close to the fire with it or did something with it. And then here's a little bit of a smaller one with a little bit of a design in it. And again, easy to carry with the little handles. All right, and then now we'll do maybe what they drank out of. So I wanted to bring some treen cups because they said they would have drinking out of wooden cups. Now, I don't know if these are, because they're not very deep, but then I'm not really sure. I don't think these are mortars and pestles, but could they be? I don't know.
Potentially.
They
This
could.
one especially.
This one,
Yeah.
but
well,
this
even
one's
that-
deeper.
Yeah.
But anyways, they would have looked something like
Right,
this, maybe
right.
deeper. But I did bring I brought that again. So we have pewter, and of course, obviously the tankards. Anne has a bunch of them all hanging, pewter tankards. This is another one. Again, I guess this could be a one-person tankard, but maybe they used it to pour. It doesn't have a spout, but again, this type of thing, pewter, wood. We're going to talk about noggins. So here are the noggins. This is a noggin, and actually, Ian, you have another noggin.
Oh yes, I have a noggin.
Again, this is the wood. So would have been liquids.
Yeah.
Just if you can
Very
imagine this whole scene with the wood with liquids in it. And
Yeah.
it's just
I know it.
it's just yeah.
I know it.
So you have those. I love.
Yeah,
I
isn't that
love
isn't
this.
that something? I
Love,
mean, this
love,
is
love.
old and it's got a repair.
And these are one piece.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And they can have some it's like a little mini log
yeah.
carved out.
This one's very light though.
You know?
This is very
Yeah.
old. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's
Cute.
the noggins.
The noggins, and then you have your redware.
Yes,
right here.
and then we have a piece of redware. So we're going to bring redware into the equation because, again, it would have held the liquids a lot better. And I'm assuming redware was still around that time, so they wouldn't have just thrown it away. So we're going to use this for liquids.
Okay.
You notice how it has a cute little stomp?
That is a cute little redware thing.
Isn't it
That
cute?
is so cute.
Isn't it so this came out of my drawing room.
Oh.
And then let's talk about what they ate with.
Okay.
Besides fingers,
Yes.
there were spoons. There were no forks, but it did mention this like a two-pronged utensil that they could kind of dig into the meat and just kind of grab it apart. But
And-
it's a precursor to the fork.
Right, and later when they had the three-prong, they actually were suspicious of that, and women who had the three-prong, they accused of being witches.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So it was about the spoons. So I tried to grab shorter ones because my spoons collection, I have some that are really long and probably were used to stir soups or something. So we got some spoon and fingers. That's basically it. All right. So now we have a few utensils. So I brought this cute little ladle, and we're going to say it was at the table to serve the soups.
It's adorable.
They would have had longer ones to serve and stir the pots on the fire.
You know, okay, just looking at this though, this could have been like a soup spoon and they just,
It could have been.
you know, I could
you
see
could
that.
have been. It's
Yeah.
it's small.
Right.
And look at the detail, little rat tail at the end. Again, this is one piece. So yes, you know,
Yeah.
they could. You know, we don't really
We don't.
know.
We
It's
don't
just
know.
that it's smaller.
Yes.
Than
yes.
the normal one. And then we have a couple of forks. Oh, this is that three-prong. Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
This I think is later. I want to say.
Yeah, I would think.
It seems later, where this one is not. But I don't think they used this at the table. Maybe they used it to do this to the meat, to hold it
Okay.
while they kind of tore it apart
Right.
to make pieces.
Right.
Maybe this was on the table, but I'm thinking they were shorter ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I brought this one, but I don't think this, I think this is later, but I think maybe they would have been this long. But who knows? Maybe they just used what they had. You know,
Maybe.
we're getting all caught up in the total details, and it probably didn't really matter, as long as they could get the meat apart.
Because they were multi-use people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They didn't need all these different,
No.
you know, utensils.
No.
So another thing is they would have got together to play games, the men, games, cards, to learn about maybe trade and what was happening in the world.
Gamble.
Yeah, I'm sure they gambled. They love dice games.
Sure.
Having something to drink. And so I brought I just brought an old cribbage, a primitive cribbage board that maybe they might have played, but again, they probably would have had the dice. There's also a game with the marbles in it. I think it's called Fox and Geese, and it's round, but I didn't bring that. But I wanted to bring a variety of items. So, they might have read as well. I mean, they gathered to get the news. Maybe there was someone that, maybe some couldn't read and some could, and they shared the wealth. So
Yeah.
I did bring a little book to place. And there, I'm thinking, I don't know, they didn't have newspapers per se, but there was printing.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So I brought these just for just to show you how fabulous the writing is. Maybe they would have got together. What if they had political meetings and they wrote documents and stuff? It's kind of like, what did they do? This one, I don't know if it's an inventory or something. But again, I wanted to show you the writing, and maybe these are things, some of the topics that would have been in the day. And then here's another one. I don't know what this is, some type of a legal document. But I basically brought it to show, that maybe they would have had these things around, they would have talked about them, they would have shared news, information, Also, travelers coming. Mm-hmm. Share all their information too. Mm-hmm. So I think, so I just brought, so we can talk about lanterns and things. So again, because there's no electricity, they needed light everywhere. So I brought a couple of candlesticks. I'm thinking maybe lanterns on the table would have been the safer way to go. But these could have also been on the tables or placed on the fireplace in different places. When Ann and I were rearranging, again, we took everything down, and then I'm like, let's go find some old lanterns. And so wherever there's hooks, we hung a lantern, which I think is what they would do.
Yeah, I think
and then
so.
they would, I just think it would be safer for a lantern to be in the middle of a table than a candlestick. Mm-hmm. And then, we talked about green. Did we talk about the greens at Christmas time?
I think we did.
All right. Well, in case we did,
we might not have, though.
We might not have. So now Ann has started decorating the room for Christmas, and she has a tree, and she has greens. I don't know. I didn't live back then, but I'm guessing that just from reading about how they would have decorated their homes for the holiday season, they would have had the greens, and I think we might have mentioned the fruit and
the fruit.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that. Well, okay, in the medieval days, they did decorate with greens and fruit, and they had, it was very, but it was a pagan holiday.
It was.
And the Puritans that came to America did not want to honor the pagan holiday. Right. Therefore, they probably didn't decorate for quite a while. It was more the Victorian era. Right. When, the tree came in and everything else. So
yeah, definitely the tree.
Yes.
So they wouldn't have been a tree, but I think also bringing just the greens in and the smell of them.
Yeah,
I think just would have been some, especially with the fire.
For the season.
Yeah. More than a Christmas holiday.
Right.
I think you're right. The Victorian and the whole Santa Claus and all of that was more at the end of
that
the
happened later.
1840s, 50s.
Yeah. And Christmas was just another day for them.
I know.
It was not a holiday.
Maybe they would have celebrated with a special meal or something.
If they celebrated. I mean, again, if it was a pagan holiday and they were all, they were very strict. The Puritans, the Calvinists, very strict, and then they would see that as no good. No good.
No.
Yeah.
What's that?
Okay, so what we're going to do...
Or not.
I think this should be...
Ann's Tavern, and here I am.
To be continued.
Okay, to be continued.
To be continued.
All right.
If you want to watch us now, set the table. Tune in to the next episode of Alice and Ann in the Tavern.
In the Tavern.
For Christmas and any other time.
Any other time.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye.